Welcome to the show. My guest today is Nona Joran, the author of Surf Lessons. I'm so excited to dive deep into this book with you today. And everything about how you approach your coaching practice from this organic, intuitive place. So welcome to the show today, Nona.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. It's so great to be here. I appreciate you asking me.
So you got this great book out that's all about lessons that you personally have learned through your journey, through living at the ocean, surfing. But you were already a coach. You were already evolved when you went through this process. Tell me, did this deepen your own coaching practice or turn it on its head going through this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that it really changed my perspective, not necessarily on coaching to begin with, but definitely on how I was showing up and approaching life. We move a lot for my husband's work, and I can find myself really, at least before, I could find myself really bitter about it. And I was kind of anxious about moving to Hawaii. And I was feeling kind of negative about the whole thing, which is crazy, right? In retrospect. But this process that I went through of learning how to surf and learning how to, really just spending time on and in the ocean taught me some really incredible life lessons about joy and pleasure and how we surf and navigate different circumstances in our lives with more grace or even with more courage. And so, yes, it did change not only my perspective, but it really changed the way that I approach coaching people as well.
Yeah, and it's a great little book because it shares your journey, but it also gives us some tools that we can tap into right away, even if we don't live by the ocean, right? So You happen to go through this process, and the book Surf Lessons shows that. But we actually live in the same town now, which is cool, which is in the mountains.
Yeah.
So we could take some of these and take them into the mountains, right? Do you do that now? Do you take some of what you've learned?
Absolutely. I love the mountains, and I often spend time hiking in the mountains. So I definitely I take these lessons everywhere. And I told people when I ran the program at first, I'm like, it doesn't matter if you live near the ocean. We all need surf lessons, right? We all need ways to manage the ebb and flow in our lives. And the first thing that I invite people to do is to start looking for ways to bring pleasure and play into their lives on a daily basis. It really became so clear to me living at the ocean that everything in nature really grows and evolves through play. And so it became really clear to me as I was living there that play and pleasure are such a vital part of our own growth. And coming from our culture, I had never really considered it in that way because I've always been like work, 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 go, 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 stay on task, stay serious. But what I found is as I started adding more play and pleasure to my life, I had more clarity. I moved through my days with more ease. I had better ideas about what I wanted to do in my work. So it was really, I had sort of said, well, I'm going to just see what happens when I do this. And I was shocked, honestly, which sounds ridiculous, right? Because we hear so much about play and pleasure, but as a very serious former CPA, I'm like, no, there's no value in that. But there was tremendous value for me. And my clients have gotten tremendous value from that too. And that's just a tiny little thing, right?
Yeah. So I want to dive deep there for just a minute because I think play is a really interesting word. I'm sort of the same as you, right? Work, work, work. I have an office. I've got to get a lot done. I've got a family, a husband. My sister's always asking me, well, are you playing today? And I'm like, I don't really even know what that means. Like play for me has always been going out for drink and dinner with my husband. But I have a feeling that's not what you mean. Can you give me a concrete example?
Sure. Well, and I think it's different for everyone. I think you raise a really important point. Play can have really negative connotations for a lot of people as they become adults. Like, well, play is for children. But if you think sports are play, any kind of hobby or activities you do just for the heck of it, those are play. So the definition of play that I use in the book is anything that you do without looking for an outcome, a specific outcome. So for me, stepping out and learning to surf, definitely play, but also maybe not the definition of play you might be looking at, because it was kind of scary. I was learning something new, and but definitely felt like play, because there's a wide range of what play really means. But it can be as simple as going out to dinner and enjoying that process of being with other people. But it can be a lot of other things too. I drum, you see a drum back here. So I often drum. I love drumming. That's very much playtime and meditation time for me. For some people, meditation can be an active play, ritual, creating altars. These are things that a lot of people in my life do naturally, like lighting a candle at dinner. There's no purpose for that. So therefore, it falls into the play category.
I think there's probably a big overlap between what you're calling play and I might call creativity.
Yes, absolutely. Creativity is play.
Yeah, and I think people are the same thing. They have a negative connotation. I don't have time for creativity. They think they have to go take up watercolor or something. But it can be as simple as lighting a candle or throwing a scarf on. I see you have one too. And just being different in your life than you normally are. So thank you. I think that helps ground it for us.
Well, in creativity, I've always said, I'm not a very creative person. But my husband looks at me and he's like, you are so creative, because you and I both run our own businesses. We write programs, we create programs, we write articles and books, and that is creative. That is creative work. So it would make sense that doing some kind of play that's outside of your work, right? Something that is completely fresh and new, it actually it's additive to the creative work we do in our everyday lives when we go to the office.
And do you think writing surf lessons was part of your play process then?
It was. I definitely process things through writing. And so going out and having these insights and just feeling so in awe of what was being offered to me in that time that we lived in Hawaii, and then coming back and writing about it was absolutely part of my creative process and felt very playful for me.
It's so interesting. I want to just remind everybody that Surf Lessons is available Amazon, iTunes, Nook, everywhere books are sold, and you have copies, so people should stop you on the street and get a copy. But I also want to just switch gears here for a minute, because you come from a very sort of serious business background, CPA, work, and yet you chose to go down the path to learn more intuitive kinds of coaching. Tell me how you made that decision rather than the kind of coaching where you go through a process and you hold everyone accountable and what did you get done this week? Two different sort of approaches to coaching.
Yeah, very different. Well, I've always been a very intuitive person. In fact, I would say that my intuition was probably one of my most prized values in corporate accounting. I would often have people come and talk to me about different situations, and they would tell me about something that I go, oh, this is what you need to do. So very quick on the uptake, gut reaction, this is what I think should happen. And people would often just follow through with that. And I became a yoga teacher after I left corporate accounting and married my husband. And I had been a longtime yoga practitioner, and I was like, I want to do something totally different. And I went to yoga teacher training, and that sort of enhanced my desire to teach people how to live in their bodies. Whether I was coaching or doing something else, this idea, because I had always felt like I had been expected to live sort of separate from my body, that, I was the walking head, and really suffered with that in my corporate life, and how I treated myself, and how I sort of went through life just push. And I knew I didn't want that. And so when I was looking at coaching programs, it was very much an intuitive decision. I was like, I really think Martha Beck has got what I want. I had never even read any of her books. Actually, when I signed up, I had read all this information about other coaching programs and seen some of their information. And I was like, it just doesn't feel right. And so I signed up for Martha Beck kind of on a whim, and then read her books and really, really loved them. And it really resonated deeply for me, this idea of listening deeply, attuning to the wisdom of our intuition and our bodies.
And you're a master coach now, both for her and on your own. What do people expect to get from coaching these days?
Well, I think it differs depending on what kind of coach you have. The people who come into my practice tend to be women who are small business owners. And I think they're looking for not only prosperity in their businesses, but they're looking for balance. I can say, even when I started my coaching business, I pushed and did the exact same thing to myself that I had done in corporate accounting, which was a very unbalanced approach to work and life. And so my whole philosophy revolves around, yes, you want to get it done, but you also have to have the counterbalance and the pleasure and you need to be listening to your own heart and being the person that you want to be in the world. And that typically is more than just our jobs.
It's more than just our jobs. We all hear that. And I think, especially as women, sometimes it's like, yeah, I know I'm more than my job because I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I have a household to run. But you're talking about something even more internally that's connecting with play and creativity right in our body. That's such an important piece. And it's interesting to me that you talk about this connection with your body, and then you have to go surf, you don't have to, but you chose to go learn to surf, which is, I've never done it. And it seems like that must be so whole body, core, hang on tight, hang on to the wave sort of craziness. So I don't know if I have a question, but it feels like jumping off the deep end to me, learning how to really connect with your body.
Yeah, it's so different than what we're normally taught and how we're encouraged to be. I mean, typically women's bodies culturally are just viewed in a kind of an objective way. Either we are smart and we just live in our heads, and if we're in our bodies, it's about the male gaze, or it's about having babies, or it's about what our bodies can do instead of living inside of our bodies. And this is an ongoing process for me. I think there's a lot of layers of expectation and ideas to shed, but ultimately, coming from a background where I've practiced meditation and yoga and spirituality, most of those traditions are focused on transcending the human experience, because that's what we've been taught by monks, because that's what they were doing, right? They were out there, trying to transcend living in a human body. But most of us, really, what we want is intimacy with life. Like trying to transcend the human experience doesn't make a whole lot of sense for somebody who has babies and a work and a husband and, wants to live in the world. And we've sort of, for women who pursue these paths of yoga and meditation and personal development, I think there can be a focus on trying to transcend dark thoughts, anger, emotions, all those things that live in our bodies. And the surf lessons to me is really that first invitation into living fully in yourself and deciding, making the choice to be intimate with your life and make decisions from that deep, visceral place in your heart. Like, this is really what I want, instead of I should do that, or this is how I'm seen, or this is what women do, and this is how we behave, and this is how we look, and this is the kind of decision that we make, right? Like all these shoulds and have tos, and it's like, no. What if we just come back in the body? What does that animal body, right? That Mary Oliver poem, the soft animal body. What does this piece of me want?
Does it take a long time? I think that's a question some women would sort of bring up now. Like, right? Like, I'll have to do this when my kids are out of school, or I have to wait till, whatever, they're through high school.
Right. Well, I am a very introspective person. I've always been that way. So for me, it felt even more imperative with a daughter. It felt like, do I want her growing up with the same, looking at me and seeing those social expectations driving me? Is that what I want to be modeling for my child? Or do I want to be living into what I tell her, which is listen to your inner compass, trust your body. Those are really like such important things for women to grow into and grow up into, instead of you have to be this, you should be that, this is what you do, da 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 da. So to me, it felt even more important to take it on, no matter how long it took. It was this commitment to being fully myself.
Yeah.
And being that means being a whole person.
So that's a really interesting perspective, because we have similar age daughters, and in my head, I want her to listen to herself. But then when she tells me something, this is just the reality of being a mom, right? Sometimes I'm like, no, or that's not right, or you can't do that, right? And then I have to sort of step back and coach myself a little bit. And it's like, is it wrong, the decision she's made? Is it going to impact really anything big, right? And to let her really run with that. And if we believe, as I think you do as well, that people are often our mirrors, I notice that when I'm hard on her, I'm probably hard on myself at the same time. And I'm just reflecting that it's not always so easy we want to do well for our children. It's not always so easy to really follow through with what we think we're doing. Right.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just acknowledging that actually she and I should go play more together. Right.
Yeah. And I really make an effort to do that with Clara, to take her. We went on a month-long road trip this last summer, just the two of us, and we explored national parks and drove all over the West. And it was such a great experience to be able to do that with her. I think that's so important, and teaches, if we can trust ourselves, and we are trusting ourselves and our bodies in front of our daughters, we teach them so much about growing up into whole, autonomous women.
Right. And it's important, I think, for them to find their voices early. Because it's difficult to come back later and try to recapture that.
Absolutely.
But it's doable, because you've done it.
Most of us have at this age, right? We've got to go back and reclaim that.
But it's a process, and it takes a while. And so I love the idea that we can do it through play. It seems much more lighthearted than having to go through years of therapy or your accountability questions for a different kind of coach, which is absolutely worthwhile too. It's just different. It's just a different method.
I would also say too that, I went through a long period of time, as I think many women do who are on this personal development journey of really diving deep into things that were really challenging, right? To heal the past and to get clear. And what I wasn't expecting was that turning my gaze towards play and pleasure was actually fraught with as much resistance and difficulty as going towards the grief and the sadness. And because there's such a cultural, at least for me and the way I grew up, there was such a cultural oh, no. That's not okay to enjoy yourself like that. It's not okay to enjoy your body in that way. It's not okay to go play. You're not going to get anything done. That's totally
That's right? The one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's dishes in the sink.
Yeah,
there's
I can't
clients to call. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would say, because a lot of people are like, oh, yay, we're going to go play. And then they find there's this huge wall of resistance. And it's like, yeah, that's right. Because when we're learning to live, the way that I think about it is, we do all this deep diving, right? We dive into things that really can be very painful. And the thing is that we have to grow our capacity both ways. That we're as much as you want to reach the light and to be positive and to be happy and to be joyful, you have to have those deep roots, right? But growth in both directions is going to be challenging. Mm-hmm. So, the idea that if we pursue play and pleasure, it's just going to be all happy all the time. I had some real moments, and I still do have real moments of I don't deserve this. I shouldn't do this. I've got other things that are more important that I need to be doing. This is useless. And that's normal. But I would say, and what I always kind of tell myself in those moments, it's okay, well, let's just see what happens. Just go play for a little while and see what happens.
And my guess is it's quicker for you to go play now than it used to be, and you come against the resistance less.
Yes.
I want to go down two directions. So you travel a lot, and you're getting ready to travel again, I think. Is this this resistance to play and this difficulty with women really following their bodies and their own internal guidance, is that cultural to the United States in particular, and the Western culture? And do you see this elsewhere as you travel?
Well, it's certainly present in Europe. I have not traveled to a lot of places that are outside of our Western culture. And I'm really excited actually to be able to go to Africa, which you alluded to. We're going to be living there for 3 years, and to experience that and to see what life is like for women who live on the African continent. So I'm actually really excited to see that. I've heard, and but who knows, I haven't witnessed it personally. My husband is in Africa right now, and he says it's amazing to see how happy and embodied people are, even in pretty horrible, what we would consider pretty horrible circumstances in their lives. So I don't know. We'll see.
And maybe there's another book.
There is another book for sure in this experience.
Lessons from Africa, maybe. And then the other direction I wanted to ask you about do you notice younger women, so millennials and younger, and women coming up now with the same sort of hang-ups or baggage or losing their voice as those of us who are maybe 40 and 50 and older? Do you see a difference, or is it just pervasive across all age groups?
The people who tend to come into my practice, they all tend to have the same kind of issues around voice and permission around being in, living in, listening to their bodies. And so the young people I see, from what I see of younger people, have similar issues, but I think they're more aware of them. They're more aware of the cultural influences that ask them to be a certain way that isn't necessarily natural to them.
So it'll be interesting what you bring back from Africa, and I think this is just a fascinating conversation. The book is Surf Lessons, and it's available where books are sold everywhere. I presume you're going to take them to Africa, and
Absolutely.
So it's very exciting. I loved having you on the show. Tell me, I want to know what is the one thing that you just love to do in play right now? What's your play right now?
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, I drum, and I'm taking a frame drum class right now. And it's really, really fun for me. So I really had a hard time coming back to the mountains and leaving the ocean, and like, well, how do I play? And what does that look like for me now? And coming back to music has been a really exciting and fun thing for me to do. And so I've been taking lessons and learning how to do that. And that's been really, really fun. And also, one of the things for me that I look for in a great play practice is that it's a little edgy. Like, it pushes me to expand my comfort zone. And I talk about that in Surf Lessons as well. But for me, that's a really good practice, is one that pushes me a little bit outside of my zone and grows my comfort level.
Yeah, I love that. I do ballroom dancing, and same thing. I'm always being sort of pushed on the edges there. So
I love that. I'm hoping to get my husband to do ballroom dancing lessons with me when we're in Africa.
Nice. So my husband doesn't, and I just dance without him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there you go. Maybe I'll take up drumming too. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for being a guest on the show. And
thank you so much for having me.
Have a fabulous time in Africa.
Thank you.